In this video, we're going to go over some new functionality that has been um, added to the system related to assemblies. We've got some manufacturers that are now starting to use Lizzy, and as a result, they have build stations where they're actually building up motorcycles. And we have parts that need to be delivered to those build stations in order to build these assemblies. And we needed some way to track inventory and deal with what was available at that particular station. So what we've done is in settings, if we go to inventory bins, you'll now notice a new option here for build station. This simply says that this particular bin location is actually a build station out on the floor and not just an inventory bin that we've got parts stuck in. The idea is that we're going to move inventory from the individual bin locations into an assembly area or a build station, and then once the items are built, we'll pull them out of that build station's inventory instead of the main inventory, and then move them either down the line to another build station or put them back in inventory to sell. So the first step is to actually create your build station locations and tag them as a build location. It is also a note here, if you tag this as a build location, it will not be available to sell from in the invoicing section. So it kind of treats it as a consignment bin. So if you select build station, it literally is only going to be used for building up that assembly, and you're never going to be able to sell from it. You'll have to put it into inventory in an actual location if you're going to sell it later. So after we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here to parts, and we're going to go to assemblies, and I'm just going to take a look at the create modified just for a second. Nothing really has changed here. You're still going to select the unit that you're going to create. In other words, this is the main assembly. And then you're going to add all of the items that make up that assembly. So we're, going through and basically defining what this assembly is going to be made up of when we build it. We're not actually building it at this point. And so the same functionality that we used to have, which is this is the assembly, this is the part, and this is the bin location that we're actually going to pull that part from when we build it. So this is something that has to be set. It is location specific, so if you're going to build assemblies in multiple locations, you'll have to set that appropriately. But this is specifically what bin we're going to pull the part from when we're building the assembly. Well, if you start thinking about build stations, this doesn't work anymore, because I might have the same part in 2 or 3 different build stations, and I want the system to build from that station now, not from the default that I set here. And that's perfectly okay. If you don't use build stations, all of the functionality still works and still operates in the same way. So choose where you're going to pull the parts from, and then the system will build them appropriately. Now, in the case of actually building now, when we pick an assembly to actually build, you'll notice now we have the ability to tell it where we are. We are actually at build station 1. And then we also have the ability to tell it that when we're done with this part, it needs to go to build station 2 or 3, or if I don't set it, it's going to go into inventory just like it always did. But by me setting this build station, this initial build station, this bin location here that it actually is saying that it's going to pull this part from won't actually pull the part from this bin location. It's going to be pulling it from this bin. So when I tell it I need to build up one assembly, it's going to pull it from the build station's inventory to make that up. Now, this adds another level of complexity to the whole system, because now how am I going to know when I need to pull parts to put in the build station? I need to know when that build station meets a certain level so that I can make sure that people are alerted and they carry parts over to that station so they can continue building parts. To handle that, we've added a new menu here for build station min max. And so we're going to choose the build station. We're going to choose the assembly number that we want to work with, and then we're going to set a min max for that build station. Now keep in mind there could be 20 parts that make up that assembly when we get through building it. We are not setting the min max for each individual part. We are basically saying that we want that build station to always have enough inventory to build 3 units and a max of 10. And then Lizzy will go in and calculate how many of each individual part we actually need to have at that station to make that happen. So we're setting the min max here for the assembly itself, not for the individual items. And then lastly, who do we want to alert if the inventory at that particular location becomes low? If you don't have to set this, but if you do set it, then it will send an alert to that particular person and let them know they need to go get some inventory to put into that particular build station.